The unexpected encounter, the rain hammered against the glass walls of the Manhattan office building as Marcus Chen gathered his laptop and designed portfolios. Another 14-hour day designing user interfaces for Fortune 500 companies had drained him, but the paycheck made it worthwhile. At 32, he'd built a reputation as one of the city's most sought-after software architects. Trading his personal life for professional success, the elevator descended silently, carrying him from the 42nd floor to Ward Street level. Marcus checked his phone, 3 missed calls from his business partner, and a reminder about tomorrow's client presentation. The divorce settlement with Sophia had been finalized 2 years ago. He'd thrown himself into work ever since, using code and algorithms to fill the void where love once lived, stepping onto the sidewalk. The downpour immediately soaked through. His expensive wool coat, typical New York weather, unpredictable and relentless. Marcus hurried toward the subway entrance, dodging puddles and frustrated pedestrians who huddled under inadequate umbrellas halfway down the block. Something made him stop. Through the curtain of rain, he saw a crowd gathering near the crosswalk. People were pointing and talking, but no one seemed to be actually helping.
Ow.
Marcus's first instinct was to keep walking. New York had taught him that getting involved usually meant complications he couldn't afford. But then he saw her, a woman, had collapsed on the wet pavement, her long dark hair splayed across the concrete. Even from 30 feet away, even through the rain and chaos, Marcus recognized the delicate curve of her shoulders. The way her hand instinctively moved to protect something precious, Sophia his. His ex-wife lay unconscious on a busy street corner. Visibly pregnant, while dozens of strangers stepped around her like she was just another urban obstacle, Marcus felt his chest tighten as memories flooded back their wedding day. Lazy Sunday mornings, the fights that eventually tore them apart. Without conscious thought, his feet were moving. He pushed through the crowd, his heart pounding louder than the thunder overhead. Sophia looked pale and fragile, so different from the vibrant woman he'd married 5 years ago. Her clothes were simple and worn, not the designer outfits she used to love. But what stopped him cold was her swollen belly. She was clearly in her second trimester. Someone called 911, a bystander mentioned casually. Already losing interest, Marcus knelt beside her, his expensive suit soaking up rainwater. From the sidewalk. "Sophia, can you hear me?" he whispered, gently touching her shoulder. Her eyelids fluttered but didn't open. The practical part of his mind calculated arrival times for ambulances in Manhattan traffic during rush hour. It's too long. Way too long. Meanwhile, Sophia remained unconscious on cold, wet concrete while strangers continued their evening commutes around them. Marcus made a decision that surprised even him. He carefully lifted Sophia into his arms, feeling how light she'd become, and carried her toward his car, parked 2 blocks away. She stirred slightly against his chest, mumbling something he couldn't understand. "It's okay," he found himself whispering. "You're safe now." As he placed her gently in the passenger seat and cranked up the heat, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that this unexpected encounter was about to change everything he thought he knew about second chances. Revelations in room 300 for the fluorescent lights of Mount Sinai Hospital cast harsh shadows across Sophia's pale face as she slowly opened her eyes. Marcus had been sitting in the uncomfortable plastic chair for 3 hours, watching the steady rise and fall of her chest while nurses checked her vitals every 30 minutes. He'd called his assistant to cancel tomorrow's meetings, though he couldn't explain why, not even to himself. "Marcus?" Sophia's voice was barely a whisper, confusion clouding her dark eyes. "What are you doing here?" "You collapsed on 42nd Street, he said quietly, leaning forward. "I brought you to the hospital. The doctors say you're dehydrated, and your blood pressure dropped dangerously low." Sophia tried to sit up but winced, her hand instinctively moving to her rounded belly. The simple gesture made Marcus's throat tighten. During their marriage, they'd talked about children someday after his business took off. After they bought the house in Westchester, after life became perfect enough for a family. Somehow, someday never came. "The baby's fine," Marcus added. Quickly, seeing her panic, they did an ultrasound. Everything looks normal. Relief washed over Sophia's features, followed immediately by embarrassment. She turned away from him, staring at the rain-streaked window. "You don't need to stay," I'm sure you have important meetings or something. Whose is it? The question escaped before Marcus could stop himself. He immediately regretted his bluntness. But Sophia's bitter laugh surprised him more than anger would have. His name was David, she said, still not looking at him. We dated for 8 months after our divorce was finalized. When I told him about the pregnancy, he said he wasn't ready for that kind of responsibility. She paused, her fingers tracing patterns on the thin hospital blanket. Turns out men have a habit of leaving when things get complicated. The accusation hung in the air between them. Marcus deserved it. He'd been the first to walk away when their marriage required more effort than his startup. But seeing Sophia like this, vulnerable and alone, made him realize how thoroughly he'd failed her. "Where are you living now?" he asked Queens. "A studio apartment above a laundromat." Sophia finally met his eyes, and Marcus saw strength there that hadn't existed during their marriage. "I work mornings at a coffee shop in Brooklyn and evenings doing bookkeeping for small businesses. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills." Marcus did quick math in his head. 2 part-time jobs, a pregnant woman, Queen's rent, medical expenses. The numbers didn't add up to anything sustainable. "Sophia, if you need help, I don't want your money," she cut him off sharply. "I survived just fine without you for 2 years. I can handle this." A nurse entered with discharge papers explaining Sophia's need for better nutrition and more rest. Easy prescriptions for someone with health insurance and flexible work schedules. Nearly impossible for a pregnant woman juggling 2 jobs without benefits. As they waited for the taxi Sophia insisted on taking, Marcus watched her struggle to put on her worn coat. Her wedding ring was gone, replaced by a simple silver band on her right hand. She'd lost weight everywhere except her belly, and there were dark circles under her eyes that spoke of exhaustion deeper than one difficult day. "Sophia," he said, as her taxi pulled up to the curb, "I know you don't want to hear this, but you don't have to do everything alone." She paused at the hospital's automatic doors, rain still falling steadily outside. For a moment, Marcus thought she might turn around, might let him help carry some of her burden. Instead, she squared her shoulders and walked into the storm. "Take care of yourself, Marcus," she called over her shoulder, watching her taxi disappear into Manhattan traffic. Marcus realized that for the first time in 2 years, taking care of himself felt far less important than taking care of someone else. Small acts, big changes. Marcus found himself driving through Queens at 7:30 the next morning. 2 large coffee cups from Sophia's favorite cafe balanced in his cup holder. He'd spent the entire night thinking about her exhausted face. The way she'd struggled to put on that threadbare coat, sleep had been impossible. The laundromat beneath Sophia's apartment building was already bustling with early customers. Marcus climbed the narrow staircase to the 2nd floor, following apartment numbers until he found a B. Through the thin door, he could hear soft jazz music playing. His knock was tentative. Footsteps approached, then stopped. Probably checking. "The peephole, what are you doing here?" Sophia's voice came through the door, suspicious, but not hostile. "I brought coffee," Marcus said, feeling ridiculous. "And bagels from that place on Amsterdam you used to love?" A long pause, then the sound of multiple locks being undone. Sophia opened the door just wide enough to peer out, wearing an oversized sweater that had definitely seen better days. Behind her, Marcus caught a glimpse of a space so small it barely qualified as an apartment, a Murphy bed, a kitchenette the size of a closet, boxes stacked everywhere. "You can't just show up at my home uninvited," she said, but she was eyeing the coffee cups with obvious longing. "You're right. I should have called first." Marcus held out the larger cup. "But I was worried about you. The doctor said you need to stay hydrated." Sophia hesitated, then accepted the coffee. The first sip brought a small smile to her face. He'd remembered exactly how she liked it. "Marcus, I appreciate this, but no strings attached," he interrupted gently. "I'm not here to fix your life or make grand gestures. I just thought you might be hungry." Against her better judgment, Sophia let him in. The apartment was smaller than Marcus's walk-in closet, but she'd made it warm somehow. Photographs lined the windowsill, her parents, college friends, A few shots of them from happier times that she apparently hadn't thrown away. Books were stacked everywhere. Most of them worn paperbacks from used bookstores. "It's temporary," Sophia said, following his gaze. "Once the baby comes and I figure out childcare, I'll find something bigger." Marcus nodded, not trusting himself to comment on the impossibility of that math. Instead, he unpacked the bagels and found 2 mismatched plates in her tiny cabinet. They ate in comfortable silence while morning light streamed through the single window. "How did you know where I lived?" Sophia asked eventually. "Your address was on the hospital paperwork." "I may have glanced at it while you were unconscious." Marcus set down his coffee cup. "Sophia, I know you don't want charity. But what if it wasn't charity? What if it was just ... friendship?" She studied his face, looking for hidden motives. "What exactly are you proposing?" "Nothing dramatic. Maybe I'll give you rides to doctor appointments so you don't have to take 3 buses. Maybe I'll help carry groceries up those stairs. Maybe sometimes I bring decent coffee because the stuff at that chain by your work tastes like dishwater." "And what do you get out of this arrangement?" Marcus considered the question seriously. "Honestly, I don't know. Peace of mind, maybe. The chance to not be the guy who walked away when things got difficult." Sophia was quiet for a long time, absently rubbing her belly. Finally, she pulled out her phone and showed him her calendar. A maze of work shifts, doctor appointments, and errands crammed into impossible time frames. "I have an ultrasound Thursday at 2, she said carefully. "The bus takes an hour each way, and I usually have to leave work early without pay." "I can drive you," Marcus offered immediately. "And you won't try to come into the appointment with me or act like this baby has anything to do with you. I'll wait in the car and read emails. Strictly chauffeur service." Sophia smiled then, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her. "Okay, Thursday at 1:30. But Marcus." She fixed him with a steady look. "This doesn't mean we're getting back together. This doesn't mean anything except that you're helping an old friend who happens to need help." "Understood," Marcus said, though something in his chest loosened at being called a friend rather than an ex-husband. As he prepared to leave, Sophia caught his arm. "Why are you really doing this?" Marcus paused at her door, looking back at the woman he'd once promised to love and honor. "Because 24 hours ago, I watched strangers step over you like you didn't matter. And I realized that somewhere along the way, I'd done the same thing." The birth of understanding, 3 months of small gestures, had created an unexpected rhythm. Marcus had become Sophia's reliable constant, driving her to appointments, carrying heavy groceries, fixing her temperamental heater when November turned brutal. It'd fallen into easy conversations about books, current events, anything except their past marriage or uncertain future. Then Sophia's water broke at 2 in the morning on a Tuesday. Marcus's phone buzzed him awake from deep sleep. Sophia's name on the caller ID sent immediate adrenaline through his system. "The contractions started an hour ago," she said breathlessly. "They're getting closer together. Think it's time. I'll be there in 20 minutes, Marcus said already. "Pulling on clothes? Have you called your doctor?" "Yes, she's meeting us at the hospital." Sophia paused, breathing heavily through what sounded like a contraction. "Marcus, you don't have to do this." "I can take a taxi?" "Absolutely not. I'm coming." The drive to Mount Sinai was surreal. Sophia gripped the door handle during contractions, her breathing sharp and focused. Marcus found himself coaching her through the worst ones, remembering techniques from a childbirth class they'd never taken together but that he'd researched obsessively over the past weeks. "You're doing amazing," he murmured as they pulled into the hospital parking garage. "Just breathe through it." Labor lasted 14 hours. Marcus had expected to wait in the hallway, maybe pace around the hospital cafeteria. Instead, Sophia asked him to stay. Not as her ex-husband, not as a replacement for the baby's father, but as the person who'd shown up when she needed someone most. He held her hand through contractions that made her cry out in pain. He fed her ice chips and helped her walk the corridors when the doctor recommended movement. When Sophia's strength wavered around hour 10, Marcus found himself whispering encouragement he didn't know he possessed. "You're the strongest person I know," he told her during a brief respite between contractions. "This baby is so lucky to have you as a mother." Sophia squeezed his hand, tears mixing with sweat on her face. I'm scared, Marcus. What if I can't? Do this alone? You're not alone, he said simply. And you're going to be an incredible mother. When Emma Sophia Chen Morrison finally arrived at 4:47 p.m., Marcus was the first person besides the medical team to see her. 6 pounds, 2 ounces, of perfect humanity, with Sophia's dark hair and delicate features. The baby's father had chosen not to be listed on the birth certificate, leaving just Sophia's last name and her middle name as Emma's first. As the nurse placed Emma in Sophia's arms, Marcus felt something shift fundamentally in his chest. This wasn't his biological child, but watching Sophia's face transform with overwhelming love, seeing the miracle of new life after hours of struggle, it changed his understanding of what family could mean. She's beautiful, he whispered, his voice rough with unexpected emotion. Sophia looked up at him, exhausted but radiant. Do you want to hold her? Marcus hesitated. Are you sure? You've been here for all of it? Should meet her properly. When the nurse carefully transferred Emma to his arms, Marcus felt his composure crack completely. The baby was so small, so perfect, so completely dependent on the adults around her for everything. As she opened her tiny eyes and seemed to look directly at him, tears he'd been holding back for hours finally fell. Hello, Emma, he whispered. I'm Marcus. I'm going to help take care of you and your mama, okay? Sophia watched them together, something shifting in her expression. Marcus. Yeah, thank you. For everything. For being here when I needed someone. For not trying to be something you're not. For just ... showing up. Marcus looked down at Emma, then back at Sophia. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. As evening fell outside the hospital windows, Marcus sat in the chair beside Sophia's bed, still holding Emma while Sophia dozed. Nurses came and went, checking vitals and offering congratulations. Visitors in other rooms celebrated with flowers and balloons. But in room 304, something quieter and more profound was taking root. Not the dramatic reunion of a romance novel, but the careful foundation of a different kind of love, one built on presence rather than promises, on choosing each other daily rather than assuming forever was guaranteed. Building something new 6 months later, Marcus found himself reading Goodnight Moon to Emma, while Sophia finished her online accounting course at the kitchen table of their new apartment. Not their apartment, that would be presumptuous. Sophia's apartment, which happened to have a second bedroom that Marcus helped pay for and occasionally slept in when Emma had rough nights. They hadn't labeled what they were. Not dating, not married, not just friends. Something entirely new that didn't fit conventional categories. She's almost asleep, Marcus whispered, gently placing Emma in her crib. The baby's room was small but perfect, filled with books Marcus brought and toys Sophia's mother had sent from California. Sophia looked up from her laptop, pencil tucked behind her ear. The math final is tomorrow. I'm terrified. It'll pass, Marcus said confidently. You've been getting A's all semester. She'd enrolled in the accelerated program to become a certified public accountant, working toward a career that could actually support her and Emma long term. Marcus paid for the classes, but Sophia did all the work. Their arrangement had rules. He could help with practical things, but her independence remained non-negotiable. Marcus, Sophia said quietly, closing her textbook, we need to talk about what happens after graduation? His stomach tightened. They'd been avoiding this conversation for weeks. What do you mean? I mean, I'll have a real job soon. It's good benefits, decent salary. I won't need someone to drive me places or help with rent. She paused, watching his face. What happens to us then? Marcus sat on the couch, suddenly exhausted. I don't know. Do you want to happen? Sophia joined him, curling up against his side the way she used 2 years ago. I want you to stay. Not because I need rescuing, but because we make sense together now. We're better people than we were when we were married. We are, Marcus agreed, running his fingers through her hair. We learned how to show up for each other. Emma adores you, Sophia continued, and you love her like she's yours. She is mine, Marcus said firmly. Not biologically, but in every way that matters. We both are. Sophia tilted her face up to look at him. So what are we calling this? Marcus considered the question. How about family? Not the traditional kind, but the kind we chose to build. Together. I like that. Sophia smiled. Family. From the nursery came Emma's soft babbling. She was fighting sleep again. Marcus started to get up, but Sophia stopped him. My turn, she said. You've got that client presentation tomorrow morning. As Sophia went to settle their daughter, Marcus remained on the couch, thinking about the strange journey that had brought them here. No dramatic proposals or grand romantic gestures. It's just a people who'd learned that love wasn't about passion or perfection. It was about choosing to stay, especially when staying was difficult. His phone buzzed with a text from his business partner about tomorrow's meeting. Marcus glanced at it, then set the phone aside. Why? For the first time in his adult life, work felt secondary to the quiet sounds of Sophia humming lullabies in the next room. This was enough. This was everything.